Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Cruise Critic Live. My name is Adam Coulter, and I am the managing editor here at Cruise Critic in the UK. Thank you so much for joining us today as we welcome Ben Bouldin, UK Managing Director and Vice President EMEA of Royal Caribbean. Ben is here to share with us, amongst many other things, I hope, the line's return to the seas, what will life look like on board once the ship starts sailing again, and a sneak peek of what ships will be based here and in the rest of Europe next year. Now, just a few housekeeping notes before we dive into things. This event is scheduled for around 45 minutes and will be divided into three parts. So the first 20 minutes or so, Ben and I will be chatting about all the topics that I've just mentioned to you. And one of the things that we are also running is a poll, and it's an opportunity for you to, I will tell you the poll in a few minutes' time, and also we'll be going to be doing a Q&A. So please do send us your questions as Ben is here to answer them. But please note, if you're watching this on replay after the event, unfortunately this functionality is not going to be available to you. Now, the second 15 minutes, we have a very special guest beaming in all the way from America, and we're delighted to welcome Nick Weir, who is in charge of entertainment across the entire Royal Caribbean fleet. And Nick will be sharing some very exciting news about what we can expect to see on board in terms of entertainment next year. Now, and for the last 10 to 15 minutes, we will turn this over to a Q&A. That's over to you guys to ask any questions that you'd like for Nick and Ben. So do start thinking and do start sending them in. Now, without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Ben to kick off the show. Ben, welcome. How are you? How have things been over the past few months or so?
Yeah, good afternoon, Adam. Delighted to be here and thank you for the invitation. Yes, like everyone, working my way through the current environment we live through. Obviously being challenging for the cruise industry as a whole. But each day that goes by, we're a little bit closer to a vaccine and certainly a little bit closer to our return, which I know is what many of the listeners today will really want to hear about.
Absolutely, Ben, and you've nicely queued that up for yourself because it is the very first question that I want to kick off. I'd like to talk about the return, but first of all, the steps that you are taking for that safe return to the seas. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what you set up a few months ago, the Healthy Sail Panel. Can you tell us a bit about what that is and how it will help you get back to sailing?
Sure. I mean, we voluntarily suspended sailing back in March. So nearly 9 months ago now, I guess, as we drift into December. And it's obviously developed and evolved in a much greater way than any of us perhaps envisaged at the start. It became very clear that this was something we're going to have to take very seriously. And we pulled together a panel of experts, leading epidemiologists from around the world, who really given us the gravitas and the know-how to come up with a set of protocols that we think could steer the cruise industry back to a healthy return. And that group of experts in the Healthy Sail Panel has pulled together 74 recommendations around what's required to return to service. It's a 60-page document. It's publicly available. So anybody who would like to read it can do so. And obviously it gives cruise lines some great guidelines to work around and within as we plan our return. So we're delighted with that work, and we continue to evolve those recommendations into our own brand recommendations. And it's helping to guide the discussions we have with the CDC and governments and other bodies around the world that are important to our return.
Fantastic. Now, I can imagine even if you put all this stuff in place tomorrow, we're not you can't just restart tomorrow, right? So there are going to be some steps towards that. And as we understand it, there are plans for trial sailings. Now, I know that you guys let slip that you were looking for volunteers for that. And in the space of a few days, I think you had around about 100,000 people sign up. So it certainly shows that there's a lot of people out there desperate to get back on board the ships. But can you tell us a little bit about the trial sailings? When are they going to take place? Are they already taking place? And what they might involve, that sort of thing.
I must thank you, Adam, for amplifying the story of the test cruise piece, because I'm sure you gave that plenty of fuel. But 100,000 people apparently in the US have signed up to doing a test cruise. So that's very reassuring on a positive side of things, that there's lots of people desperate to get back on board, and we should take that as a positive. The reality is these protocols are exhaustive. There's a lot of training that we've got to do of all of our crew, and a lot of new systems that we need to bed into our product before we return. So test sailings will be critical on all of our fleet. How we go about managing those, I think, is still to be defined fully. But as I think was let slip, we might need some volunteers in some markets to do this, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, the team are planning what those test sailings really look like. But there will be extensive test sailings on all the fleet, because we need to make sure we bring these ships back and they hit the ground running at the point at which we're bringing revenue-paying guests back on board. Probably the best way of practicing these protocols, though, might be to mention our Singapore program.
Yeah, please tell us what's happening there.
Actually has just finished its first test sailing, largely friends and family in this case. But we're delighted to say that as of tomorrow, the 1st of December, we start cruising again in Singapore. Now, initially, at least, it is only for Singaporeans, but we've worked very closely with the Singapore authorities to produce a program that's fit for purpose and helps us return to service safely. And we're delighted to get that back up and running tomorrow. And I'm sure we're going to learn so much about our future plans on the basis of how these sailings develop and evolve. So that's really exciting and a great shoot of recovery to think about.
It's fantastic, Ben. It's amazing news. Can you tell us a little bit about what the people have to do on board? Or do they run through sort of the new enhanced health and safety? Do they have to practice all the social and wear masks and things like that? Is that how it's working? Is that what the people who trial it might have to do further down the line?
Yeah, I mean, our crew are being trained on all of the new protocols, and it's an exhaustive piece of work that needs to be done. All of my team are also doing the same training, but probably not to the degree that our crew are doing it. But there's so many different protocols, so many different aspects, from hygiene and cleaning through to how we serve in restaurants and buffets, how we socially distance in theatres. All of these things have to be thought through, practiced, and implemented ahead of guests coming on board. So there's lots of training work to be done, and lots of work for the crew to be done in terms of familiarization of these new protocols before we start any sailings.
Okay, well, it sounds very, very exciting, and for people who are watching on Catch Up, this is going live on November the 30th, and the first sailing is December the 1st in Singapore. So that's the first Royal ship to get back on the water. So that is amazingly exciting, and we wish you the very best of luck with that. For people watching who are interested, who might want to sign up to help in the US for these trial cruises, is there a way that they can do that? Because 100,000 people have, but for those who haven't, is there a way of expressing their interest?
I think in the US there's a Facebook page set up, and there's various ways for people to get in touch. We haven't yet figured out how we're going to do it in Europe yet. We will have some to run, and I dare say we'll be reaching out certainly to some of our Crown and Anchor members to get involved, because we need some critical mass for some of these things. But yeah, more details.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ben. Now, I think this is a very good moment to put in a little plug for our poll, which will be going live as I speak. And the poll question is a very simple one. How many people are planning on sailing next year? And how many people in 2022? So I'll just repeat that. It should be coming up on the right of your screen somewhere under polls. How many people are planning on sailing next year, and how many people in 2022? So do fill that in, and we will return to the results of that much later on in this conversation when we do our Q&A. So then the other thing that is very much at the forefront of people's minds, and indeed Royal and your sister brands have been leading the way in this, is of course technology. I know that you've been doing, for example, Celebrity does facial recognition. You can do online check-in on an app, all that sort of thing. Can you tell us a little bit about how the role that technology will play in getting you back to sailing?
Sure. Technology will be critical as we come back. It was critical before, and it will continue to be critical. We pride ourselves on getting to the smoothest transition in terms of guest from the curb onto the ship. That's where technologies like the facial recognition have come in. We encourage people to use an app now on their smartphone for their check-in procedure, which literally allows them to scan their way through the terminal with barely stopping. And then they can be from ship to shore in under 10 minutes. So those processes will continue. But also we're looking at how we create contactless environments around the ship, how people can order drinks from their phone, open their stateroom doors, et cetera, et cetera. And that's all going to evolve and continue to evolve. So planning your trip and having everything at the palm of your hand is critical. And being able to do a Royal Caribbean holiday the way you want to is best enabled by technology. One of the greatest, though, is the Muster 2.0, which you'll have seen and spoken about, and I know you've written about previously. That's truly fantastic. And I'm delighted you've got Nick on after me, because Nick is the brainchild of Muster 2.0. So I won't say any more about it. I'll wait for him to tell you all. But that's another critical piece and a great example of how technology will improve the cruise experience, not just in a COVID landscape.
Well, this is the thing. This is the interesting thing. As you were saying, it's about technology. We can maybe get some good out of this. And we will go back to Muster 2.0 because I think a lot of people will probably not miss the traditional muster. But as you say, we'll go into more detail later on. One thing that people will miss, however, and maybe you can clarify this, is another change that we wrote about much earlier in the year that, shall we say, caused a little bit of a furore. I think it was let slip that the onboard buffet would be gone, would disappear. I think that has to be clarified. In fact, we did clarify it. It caused a bit of a controversy. But Ben, here is your chance to tell people that their beloved buffet is here to stay, but maybe with a few changes. So could you just sort of clarify that for us?
Yeah, I mean, the buffet is staying. The Windjammer Cafe is one of the kind of most loved and best loved features of our product, and is genuinely adored by our fans all over the world. So we daren't do anything to destabilize that concept, and nor would we want to. For sure, in the short term, we may have to look at some changes around how food is served, but ultimately that restaurant will stay intact, and the brand has no intention of getting rid of the buffet that everyone loves.
Okay, but as you said, it might be that there will be slight tweaks. For example, it won't be self-serve anymore. It'll likely be you will be served, but you will come up with your plate and be served.
Yeah, I think there'll be degrees of return to normality within that space, if you like, and what the new normal is, we'll have to define. But the concept of having a wide variety of food from around the world available to people in that restaurant will absolutely remain. I think for sure it could be table service to start with. It could be our staff serving people. It'll be a very different experience from that to start with. But I think with the aspirations, we'll get back to the concept as we all know and love it.
That's great news, and I think you've gone a long way to reassuring people. So then, on the record, the buffet is not disappearing. It just might be slightly tweaked. Great. Well, moving on from talking about dining, I would like to dive into a little bit about what we can expect next year. Now, obviously, this year, it need hardly say, Anthem was meant to be here, and we had a missed season, basically. So the Brits missed out on a fine ship. And what I'd like to do is discuss a little bit about Anthem next year, but also talk about Europe in general. And what I want to do is talk about Odyssey of the Seas, which is your newest ship, which will be launching imminently, and will also be in Europe as far as. And so, can you tell us a little bit about what to expect on Odyssey, and indeed the other ships that will be sailing in Europe in 2021?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, Odyssey was actually originally due out in this month. In November, we were originally going to take delivery of Odyssey, and she was going to go across to do her maiden season actually in Florida before returning to do a summer in Rome. And the plan is still very much that Odyssey will do her summer in Rome, but unfortunately she's going to miss out on the opportunity of doing a maiden season in Florida. So we're working hard to make sure that she's ready for that season. She did her float out, actually. For those that don't know what a float out is, that's when she is literally comes out of the shipyard for the first time from undercover. And that actually happened on Saturday morning. So it was fantastic to see some incredible shots of Odyssey coming out of the shipyard on Saturday morning. And she looks incredible. I think for people that don't know, she's a Quantum Ultra class, and it's the first Quantum Ultra class that will have sailed in Europe. We have one other, which is in China. But ultimately, Odyssey will be, I would say, Anthem on steroids. Some excellent features built in. We've moved playmakers into the sports arena at the back, the Cplex Centre, and we've got some terrific entertainment, which I know Nick will enjoy telling you about shortly. So again, I won't steal his thunder on that area. But sure. Odyssey will be a truly spectacular ship, and I think for the guests that join and are able enough to come from Rome to see her next year, she does some fantastic itineraries as well, both going east and west from Rome. So we're looking forward to coming into the fleet.
So Quantum Ultra means, does it mean it's a bit bigger? And you said it has a few more features. Is it basically the same as Quantum in the terms that it has the big eye going in the middle, it has the Cplex, all that sort of thing, right? But
it has all of those really well-loved features. So it's got the Cplex, it's got the iFly, it's got the North Star, which is takes you 100 feet above sea level. It's got all of those great things, but it's got even more.
Right, okay.
Some of those features are just redevelopments. Some of them are tweaks on a theme, but it's kind of a little level above just the classic Quantum class.
Fantastic. Can't
Spectrum
wait to see that.
Came out into China, so if anybody has seen Spectrum or has been fortunate enough to see Spectrum, Spectrum's as close as you'll see.
Got it. Right. Now, Odyssey won't be alone in the Europe next year. I understand we'll also have Harmony of the Seas, which is an Oasis class ship, which you can explain. I mean, a lot of readers, a lot of viewers will know what we're talking about there. But if you want to explain where Harmony will be and some of the features on board Harmony.
Yeah, sure. Harmony is going to be in Barcelona, and the Oasis class program that we run out of Barcelona is incredibly successful, and we're delighted to have one of our kind of marquee ships in Europe each summer. I've not quite got to having two yet, but never say never. But certainly Harmony is fantastic. Got the ultimate abyss on the back, has got everything and more than you could ever expect. And I don't know whether some of your viewers will have seen the £1 billion cruise program, which aired on more recently. But that was actually Symphony, which is Harmony's sister. And Symphony, that was a great demonstration of everything that's involved on that ship. Technologically, it's a marvel. It's a fantastic vacation in its own right, irrespective of the fact it takes you to see 5 fantastic destinations in a 7-night cruise. So we're really looking forward to welcoming back Harmony to Barcelona.
That's fantastic. Great. Now, last but certainly not least, can we talk a little bit about Anthem, which, as I say, we missed this year. We last saw her in 2015. We're hopefully, fingers crossed, Anthem will be here in 2021 doing a good season in the UK. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the stuff we can expect on board? And perhaps there may be somebody else who can tell us a little bit about what entertainment we can expect. So, Ben, tell us a little bit about what's happening with Anthem.
For sure. And I was fortunate enough to help launch Anthem in Southampton. And we had Southampton was her maiden season. And it was a terrific year. We then unfortunately lost her to another part of the world for a couple of years, and she ended up in New York. But the entertainment that Nick will tell you about was designed for the Brits. That ship is really perfect for the temperate climate we have here, the getting around the Bay of Biscay. It's perfect for what we cruise from here. If you go north, it's got the iFly, it's got the 270 lounge, it's got everything you need to be a great vacation. So we're delighted that she was coming back this year. Obviously, we've had a full start, but next year I'm sure she'll be here and hopefully for many years after. But as I say, let Nick tell you about the entertainment because it's bang on for the British marketplace.
Fantastic. Ben, thank you so much. What we'll do now is we'll pause our Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing all that information with us. Absolutely wonderful stuff. I will just remind you before we go to Nick, there is a poll. You can participate. I'll reveal the results very soon. And really, without further ado, Mr. Nick Weir, please tell us all about what we can expect in terms of entertainment.
Hello, how are you? Good to see you.
Cheers.
Nice to see you. I was just having a quick coffee. Yes, I'm live in Miami right now. There's a lot of great stuff coming up, but as I heard Benjamin mention, the Muster 2.0. So if you don't mind, can I add a little color to that? Because this was something quite dear to my heart for many years. So can you go to the first slide, Caitlin? Waiting for a slide to come up. There it is. Oh, yeah, that's the title. You can go past that one. Muster 2.0. Yes. So if you go to the first slide. So I don't know whether people know. Some people do. Some people don't. I think I was on the $1 billion cruise ship last week. But I'm a bit of a lifer in the cruise industry. So now I'm obviously a proud executive at Royal Caribbean, but I've been around it all my life. I'm a second generation cruiser. My dad was a cruise director in the early days of cruising, and my brother and my mother. And so I almost grew up on ships. And so for me, trying to figure out how to do a better mustering was almost a personal mission. I almost said vendetta, because certainly as a kid, and you can see that's from the 70s, it was a pretty uncomfortable thing. Those life jackets weren't very ergonomically well designed. The whole thing was a bit uncomfortable. Now, if you go to the next slide, Caitlin, you can see we obviously improved it over the years, and we made things look brighter and cleaner. We did a better job of identifying ourselves as crew members so that people just didn't think somebody was randomly shouting at you while you were waiting for the announcements. But the reality is that it wasn't actually that efficient. I had many conversations over the years. If you grow up in the cruise industry, you become very close to the Coast Guard. Half of my best buddies are captains. And we used to have a lot of philosophical conversations about what mustering is all about. And really, the main mission of a lifeboat drill is so that guests know what to do instantly and quickly in an emergency. Really, all we want them to do is go to their muster station, because we do the rest. And, over the years, Ben, this, you've been on our ships, the announcements got longer and we added more and more things and save the waves and don't do this and don't do that. And in the end, the really fundamental messaging of a lifeboat drill got lost. So, as a guy that's been around it all my life, I'm a bit of a techie. I had a eureka moment one day, realizing I think I was using Waze in my car, an app. And I realized that with location technology and with modern sort of teaching techniques, for example, at Royal, we do all our ethics training and all our environmental training now online. And it's super effective. You don't need a person. You're perfectly comfortable interacting with a robot or an avatar. If you go to the next slide, basically, Muster 2.0 really is just taking advantage of the things we're very comfortable with now, which is our phone, location technology, online learning, and basically by stripping all of the complexity out of the way, we have a very efficient way of telling guests in a very comfortable way, because now, I think one of the big questions I asked the Coast Guard was, I remember I had a chat with my friend Robert. Is there any reason why everyone on the ship needs to know where their muster station is at the exact same time? And he said no, and that's when I had the eureka moment. So basically, when you're on board during your first day, at some point during that afternoon before sailing, you need to go to your muster station. Using location technology, the app will know you're there, and then on a very sort of one-on-one basis, the app will tell you this is what you do, this is what you touch, this is where you go, this is how long you've got, this is how you put your life jacket on. It's all done basically on the app in your muster station, and when you've done it, it knows, and you can go off and enjoy the rest of your day. For me now, especially as I run the entertainment at Royal, the big advantage is we no longer have the cruise come to a grinding halt, which it tended to do. People come up the gangway, and honestly, Ben, you know this, I know you're a fan of cruising yourself, you're at your most excited as you come up the gangway. That's it. Your vacation has started and you want to rock and roll. And what do we do at 3:30 in the afternoon? We grind it all to a halt and we start telling you what to do in an emergency. The whole thing loses its bright sparkle. So by doing it this way, not only have we taken advantage of modern tech, we've done a better job of telling the guests what to do. We also haven't had to grind the whole cruise to a halt. If you go to the next slide, Caitlin, this is something obviously to be personally proud of. Because, and by the way, I'm sure people listening to this are thinking, well, of course, it makes total sense. Why didn't I think of that? And if you look at in history, the best inventions are the ones where everyone should have thought of it, but no one did. So this is actually now a worldwide patent, which is got my name on it, which is exciting. Weir et al. I will draw your attention to the fact that it was granted in early March. It takes about 6 months for these things to happen. So, in fact, this muster 2.0 was in play way before COVID came along. So it's obviously a happy coincidence that when you are very much trying to avoid crowds, and let's face it, if you looked at those early pictures I showed a couple of moments ago, that is a crowd on steroids. So definitely it's a happy coincidence that the new Muster 2.0 is better when you're facing a pandemic. So yeah, it's something I think the rest of the world, a bit like Volvo and their seatbelt. Richard Fain, our chairman, has made the correct choice. This is a license we're happy to share with the world because it's all about safety. So yes, it's licensed, but yes, you give us a call and you need this technology, it's all yours. So we're very proud of it. Fantastic. Okay, would you like to hear about some shows? Guys, I've got some stuff to tell you. If you go to the Anthem of the Seas. Okay, now I'm obviously being a bit of a motor mouth, but I've only got another 10 minutes. Guys, what everyone needs to know, it's the dirty little secret. Anthem of the Seas was originally designed for the UK. And through a sort of a reshuffle at the last minute, global politics and, what I think it was all about dredging channels in Bermuda. Who knows what it was. At the last minute, Anthem ended up spending most of its time since it was built in the States. But the entertainment was meant for the Brits. So if you go to the next slide, we're so happy that We Will Rock You comes home. And it's, this show was put on the ship for the Brits sailing out of Southampton. It's my favorite show in the fleet. It's the musical of Queen. I've got to tell you, now the movie came out, the Americans are much more comfortable with We Will Rock You. But for a few years, Queen were never that big in the States, They were big in Europe, they were big in South America, big in Australia, not that big in the States. So I've had to do a bit of a sales job for the last few years. I don't have to anymore because the ship's coming home. And by the way, if you go to the next slide, We Will Rock You is the proud property of our friend Brian May. And he was with us on opening night. You can see on that left-hand photo, I'm on the right, Brian's in the middle with the fist pump. He attends every opening of his show. I know for a fact when he came to sort of see a version, shall we say, in quote marks, of We Will Rock You. Halfway through the show, I had the pleasure of sitting next to him. He elbowed me in the ribs and he said, this may be the best version of We Will Rock You we've ever done. And that's, of course, because our theatres, everybody, aren't 100 years old in London or 80 years old in New York. They're, we call if a ship gets to 10 years old, we call it old now. So, these are brand new theaters with the brand new technology. You take a show like We Will Rock You and you add the Royal Caribbean entertainment technology and you end up having a massive show. So I can't wait for We Will Rock You to come back. And I believe when it comes back, I don't think it's on anywhere in the world. So I think it'll be the only production of We Will Rock You. I don't think that'll last long because it's always popping up around the world. But we'll have the only We Will Rock You. So guests sailing on Anthem, it's an exclusive for you. What's the next slide, Caitlin? I can't remember. Harmony of the Seas. Can I tell them, Mel, that this is my favorite ship? I think I can. The entertainment on Harmony, apart from Grease the musical being in the main theatre, also our self-penned, self-produced, totally created in-house mega hit Columbus, the comedy musical. It's also got a fantastic aqua show. I think it's probably the best aqua show in the fleet. Aqua shows happen in our Aqua Theatre. Anyone that's been to Vegas, there's a couple of big aqua shows there. We've taken it to the next level. A lot of times people mistakenly call these shows dive shows, like as if the only important thing is the diving. And while seeing somebody dive from 60 feet high on the back of a ship is impressive, it's a lot more than just diving. We have acrobats. We use all the latest technology. This is an incredible martial arts show. And, martial arts is spectacular at the best of times. But I will tell you, when you add an inch of water to the dance floor, it takes on a whole new look. The next slide really shows it. I mean, that's it. That's your view in the front row. These are the top athletes in the world, top dancers. Their urban styles mixed with their super freaky athleticism and their incredible gymnastics. This is a show that just blows your head off. And I can't wait for it to be back in Europe, sailing out of Barcelona. Okay, the next slide, I believe. Okay, I am going to give you I've only got about another 4 minutes, but I want to give you a little sneak peek. Odyssey will have, as is always the case, guys, every time we bring out a new ship, it is the best entertainment, especially with me running the show because I'm a techie. And for me, technology in entertainment, as long as everyone always understands that the singer and the dancer will always steal the show, no matter what you do, that it's all about the talent of the artist. The technology can be fantastic. So we've got 2 amazing shows in the main theatre. What I'm going to give you now is a sneak peek of what we're doing in 270. Now, 270 is the most technologically advanced theatre in the world. We have a 135-foot wide 12K video screen. And we have the famous robo screens, which are huge robotic videos. Basically, you take a huge 150-inch video screen and you put it on a robot arm and you move the video through space. So Dance in the Box is what we started with. This is, I know I'm rabbiting on very quickly. Try to keep up class. This is Dance in the Box. The top right-hand picture, those are video screens. But by adding a composite image and perspective, we made it look like there are people literally dancing in a box, and we rotate that box on the robotic arms. The lower pictures show you how we captured that content. We basically took 2 of these robo screens, added them together, took the dimensions, built a box, put it on a gimbal, threw a dancer or 2 in it, rolled them around for 3 days non-stop, and captured it all on video. Now, in the past, movie directors have moved cameras, and they've moved scenery. There's a famous movie with Fred Astaire, and my favorite director, Christopher Nolan. If you haven't seen Tenet yet, you've got to go see it. But he did a movie called Inception with a famous scene where the entire corridor in a hotel is rotating. Well, we go one step further. We move the set, we move the camera when we capture it, and we move the actual video screens. Richard Fain, by the way, for those of you that don't know, is our equally techie chairman of the board. He loved Dance in a Box, and he challenged me. He said, what are you going to do to top it? There it is, the challenge from Richard Fain. So I said, well, why don't we do the same thing, but instead of using an empty box, let's fill it with water. So really quickly, this is an exclusive for you guys. No one's seen this stuff. We've done a couple of pilots down in China where we knew no one was watching. We basically did the same thing. We measured the video screen. We built a tank of the same dimensions. We put it on a rig that we could rotate in 3D space. We put a computer-controlled camera in front of it, and we captured the content. Go to the next slide, Kate, and look at some of these amazing photos. There it is. There's the rig on a gimbal, and the camera is in front. That looks like something out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Mel, next slide. I think we've got some pretty pictures. Oh, no, that's another dramatic one. Go to the next slide. There, you see, that is an artist. And by the way, we, of course, have the most synchronized swimmers in the world for all our aqua shows, so we were able to get the cast from our own troops. That young performer is locked in that box. She cannot get out. We did it in 40-second chunks of time. She had to trust us. If you look on the left, you can see a hydraulic ram. That is a seal controlled by a computer. We rotate the tank and we captured her. They had to trust us, guys. And it was really something special. Next slide, again, Kate, I think I've got more photos of these amazing performers. We did 6 performances, and we marry them all together, and we will show these 6 videos at the same time, rotating in space. Yes, for those of you with a keen eye, that is an alligator in the middle of the tank there. Those are various different kinds of fish. I can't tell you how expensive this thing was, because who knew that an alligator needs a different temperature of water from a carp fish? I didn't. So I had to have experts for all these animals. None of them were harmed, by the way. And it was a really great thing. Next slide again. I think there's more stuff amazing. Yeah, look at that. She's in that tank with those fish. The fish, they loved it. They've asked me for more work, Mel. They want to come back and do a second one. And what's the next slide? I think, is there another one? Yeah, there's the alligator in there. And now I think I've got some shots of what it's going to look like when we finally show this to everyone on Odyssey. So there it is. That's piloting we did down in China on Spectrum. So if you can imagine, that screen behind is 12K. Each of these screens is about 8 feet, high and about 4 feet wide. And that is actually happening. That's what it looks like. We took that content, we put it on the video screens, and you cannot tell the difference. It looks like, and there, of course, that's the That's the money shot. So if you start top left, and then you come down to the middle left, then the bottom left, and then scoot back up to the top right, you can see we actually rotate these tanks. And as you can see, we rotated the tank when we were, okay, I'm probably getting boring now. Anyway, it's going to be awesome, and it's going to be exclusive on Odyssey. And when this bleeding pandemic has left us, we can come and look at all this wonderful stuff together in a crowd and have a drink and go, wow, that's clever. That's it, guys. I don't think I've got another slide. Is there? No, back to you, Adam. Hi, Adam. Good to see you.
Can
Are
I
you impressed?
say,
You impressed?
yeah, just a little bit. You've just blown my mind. That sort of stuff is absolutely incredible. I remember when I saw, and I think it was Symphony, right? When you had those drones that would that were drones on ice. And I thought at that point, I remember sitting with somebody and just saying, what the, and I can't use that word on this live chat, but you know what I mean. And now you've just blown my mind again. So,
Adam, the point is, I've been in entertainment all my life. I hosted a game show in the UK, Catchphrase, which was great fun. I came to Royal because I wanted to create the best entertainment in the world, not do the best entertainment on a cruise ship. The fact that we happen to be on cruise ships is incidental. I happen to also love cruising. But for me, I'm going after Broadway. I'm going after Vegas. I can assure you that no one has done that Ocean Nights. No one has done that technology. So anyone that comes to Odyssey next summer will see something no one else has seen in the world. That's kind of cool.
Absolutely. I remember seeing you talk about the drones on ice, and you said at the time that you live in Vegas, right? Is that right?
I did live in Vegas, yes.
You did. And I remember you saying that you used to go to Vegas shows and you would think, how can I out Vegas Vegas? Is that right? Yeah. Well, absolutely. There we go. I think you have done, my friend.
I've got a chairman who's like happy to fund it. So it's amazing. I will tell you something I've got to tell you one quick story about the drones. We have 48 drones flying at the same time being controlled by a computer. Yeah. And the guy that was doing the programming, that was developing the technology with us, because we had to do it he said, you know something? I said, what? He said, there's more telemetry flowing between these drones and the master computer than is used to launch a SpaceX rocket. And I was very impressed. But then, of course, I said, well, how do you know that? He said, because I work for SpaceX. So
nice story. I like it.
We borrowed a mathematician from SpaceX to create the drone number. How about that?
Awesome. Nick, can I ask you though? That all the stuff you've just told us. This is for the people watching. This is brand new, right? This is breaking news. This stuff, right? This hasn't been seen anywhere before. Well, thank you.
Yes, Odyssey. We tested it a little bit down in China because the trouble with 270 as a venue is you can't build one and have it ready to go shoreside to do rehearsals. So for any way we can rehearse and stuff so we took it down there and we looked at it there, but no, it'll be an exclusive reveal to the Odyssey audiences, and they'll be literally seeing something at the cutting edge of entertainment when they come cruise with us.
Awesome. Cannot wait. Now, Nick, Ben and I talked a lot about what was going on with the trial cruises, and I've actually been following your Twitter feed about what's going on in Singapore right now. Do you want to talk briefly about this world first of? You've integrated masks and costumes, haven't you?
I mean, I think in a way, we've taken. Singapore is essentially. I mean, statistically speaking, there is almost no COVID there because they shut the borders, and this is the country that throws you in jail if you bit chewing gum in the street. So it is an incredibly clean place. So for us to do a little bit of cruising there with Singaporeans in a closed way is honestly, it's an opportunity for us to start testing our protocols in a place where the risk is minimal. But just so happens, I decided to put a production show on there. And then we decided to, we're going to create masks. So we went to the costume designers that designed the costumes. We created masks with sequins and it looked beautiful. And I realized over the weekend that that's probably the only production show of its type open in the world. So it was there. I tweeted out. My Twitter is at what is it? At Nick Weir Show. At Nick Weir Showbiz. I don't obviously look at my own feed. But I basically tweeted out, this is probably the first cast, back from, I know they did a big Macy's Day parade last weekend, but that was really not a production show. That was a parade. So, I feel like it was probably the first cast back in action on the planet. It's kind of cool.
Awesome. Great. That's wonderful. I'm going to bring Ben back now because I'm just mindful of time. So, Ben, could you come back and join us? I've got a lovely question for you, Mr. Bouldin. And this, no word of a lie, not making this up. This is from an attendee. This is someone watching right now. She says, it's nice to hear about the plans for Anthem, and it's currently at anchor outside my bedroom window in Cool Bay on the south coast of England, along with Allure, Explorer, and Jewel. She wants to know, she says, and I think this is very polite, it's been a pleasure looking after them, Mr. Ben, over the recent months, but when should we currently expect them to depart? Now, obviously, that's quite a leading question because we all want to know when they're going to be heading off to America, but can you shed any light on that? I thought that was a really lovely question.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, we should just, the ships have all been very welcome off the shores of the UK throughout the course of this year. And I have to say that the British government's been fantastic in supporting our repatriation efforts, which was, of course, one of the initial challenges we had around getting all of our crew home safely. And it's been fantastic. We've had the ships sort of in close proximity, obviously particularly close to this lady in question. And hopefully those ships will just find their way from there to their ports of call in Europe this summer. And particularly in the case of Anthem, and particularly in the case of some of the other ships there. But I think we just need to wait and see. I think the reality is I think they'll be there for a little while longer. And I think as our plans for 21 start to firm up, then they'll start to transition. As soon as we know we can start crewing ships again, I think things will start to happen. Actually, crewing ships from the UK is actually one of the easier locations to do it from in Europe. Obviously, great airlift in and out of London and so forth. So it wouldn't surprise me if a number of those ships start their crewing quite local here. So we'll see what happens, but tell her to look out for Odyssey.
I will do, for sure. Thank you very much for that, and thank you for asking the question. Ben, while we're on the, I just wanted to ask you, you did briefly mention this in our Q&A. Someone's asked, will you have trial cruises from Southampton like you're planning for the US before setting sail again next year? And I think you alluded to that, but you weren't.
Yeah, there will definitely be trial cruises on the ships sailing out of Europe. So we've had that confirmed. What form those are going to take, we're still working on, but there will definitely be some trial cruises, and whether or not we open those up to the public is still to be defined. But I suspect we may well need the help of some of our very loyal Crown and Anchor guests to come and help put some of the ships and the crew through their paces.
Okay, awesome. That's good to know. A question for Nick and Ben. Nick, I'll ask you first, but it's a question for both of you. What cruise trend or feature are you most excited about once cruise starts up again? What cruise trend or feature are you most excited about? Ben, do you want to tackle that one?
I was going to let Nick go first.
Okay, Nick, you go first.
I'm a huge fan of escape rooms, and we jumped into escape rooms very, very quickly. I remember when I first was approached by an escape room designer, I Googled escape rooms and there was no answer for it. So we got in super early, and we've, again, you sort of throw that Royal Caribbean approach to things like maxing out the technology. So hopefully we can get going with that again. Escape rooms are great, and we don't only have to have a permanent installation. We've got very good at creating pop-up escape rooms. So I don't know if that's the kind of trend you were looking for, but that's certainly something that's occupying a lot of our creativity at the moment.
It's a great trend. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's slightly different to that, although, Nick, we're using escape rooms in our new recruitment program for new members of staff. To see
really? That's awesome. That's great.
We'll talk about that later. But I think the trend I'm looking forward to seeing is I think people are going to holiday like they've never holidayed before, because I think they're going to realize what they probably took for granted can't be taken for granted these days. And I think when people go back and get that first vacation again, I think there's just going to be such a feel-good factor about people going back that they're going to really, really holiday like they've not holidayed before. And I think that's going to be fantastic to see.
Adam, I'll just say something. Yesterday, I went yesterday. I don't normally do this, but it was a Sunday and it was a nice day. So I decided to go to the beach. And I was driving past Fort Lauderdale Port Everglades. And normally you see 8 or 10 of the most beautiful ships from all the different brands proudly positioned there, loading up their guests for an amazing week on a Sunday. And it's so sad not to see any. So I'm looking forward just to seeing a skyline with ships again. That lady that wrote that question, tell her to give our ships back to us, please.
I will do. Nick, listen, both of you guys, we've run out of time actually. I need to give you the poll results. A bit of good news: 80% of our responders said they will be sailing next year. Only 20% said they'd wait till 2022. So that's good news for both of you. And I just want to thank you so much for your time. It has been absolutely wonderful speaking to both of you. I've missed seeing you in real life. I'm looking forward to that very much. Thank you so much for joining us for this session, this first one of Cruise Critic Live. And just for the readers and for the viewers, should you wish to watch this event again, the webinar will be on our YouTube page. Simply go to YouTube and search Cruise Critic, and be sure to watch our website for information on the next Cruise Critic Live event. So thank you very much indeed, both of you. Take care. Stay safe.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
See you out there.
Bye.